Welcome everybody to the Chess Lab. Welcome to How to Reassess Your Chess episode 7. Let's go. So we are talking about bishops. We did the lesson in the previous episode. We did the lessons, I should say, speaking plural. English is not my first language. Have pity on me. Okay, so this is the first puzzle, level 1600, 1800. I never solved those. So it's the first time for me as well, guys. Because in the previous videos, we solved puzzles. I attempted to solve puzzles that I already saw in my life. This time, this is first time ever. We are talking about bishops and all that, so let's keep going. Let's evaluate the position. Let's use the points that I've distilled. So material. Yeah. So material 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. Pawns are equal. Knights 2 knights 2 knights 2 bishops equal. Rooks queen king. Okay, so material is equal. Then pawn structure, symmetrical non symmetrical. Symmetrical pawn structure. Weaknesses. Do we have weaknesses? Well, I don't know if we have weaknesses, because you may say d6 is weak. D6, okay, no, we have a weakness. We have d6, they have d3. However, these pawns can, because they are the bottom of the pawn chain, right? These pawns cannot be attacked directly. They cannot be attacked directly. So they are half weaknesses. They are weaknesses only in pure theory, like really just pure theory. But I don't even know if there can be considered weaknesses. Pawn breaks. We have a4. Let me put it an arrow here. We have a4. That's it. I mean, if they take, perhaps we have f5, but I don't know. I really don't know. What else? Yeah, what else? So, okay. Open files, weak squares. Okay, open files, weak squares. Space. Yeah, I should look at space first. Because the pawns is what gives you space. Of course I should look at space first. Oh my goodness. So, material. 1 material. 2 pawn structure. And actually space is an extension of pawn structure. So symmetrical, non-symmetrical. Then weaknesses, pawn breaks. No, I should look at space first and then pawn breaks, because usually you want to have pawn breaks where you have space. And in fact, look at what coincidences. We have more space here on the queen side, and we have the pawn break here. Okay, so that there's that. Then there is what? Then there is open files, weak squares. 3 open files, weak squares. Alright. So open files, there are none. Even though after f takes, we could have the opening of the f5. But okay. Let's chill. Weak squares. There is d4, right? There is c6, a3. This is for us. They have d5. They have b5. And all these, perhaps also f6 and h6. But we still have we still have our bishop, so chill out. So what else? Okay, that's it. Open files, weak squares. Then what's next? Minor pieces. Let's finally look at minor pieces. So 4 minor pieces. minor pieces. Okay, minor pieces. Major imbalances. Like, for instance, Sir Winston, bishop pair, knight versus bishop, opposite color bishop. Okay, minor imbalances, relative imbalances. Knight versus knight. Bishop versus bishop, etc. Okay, so this is a case of relative imbalances, so let's compare the pieces. So let's start with the dark square bishop. Our dark square bishop is buried behind our pawns. However, remember that it's also about its active bishop, useful bishop, and big pawn. Our dark square bishop has a useful function, which is to defend the dark squares around the king. So he's a useful bishop. He's passive. He's a little bit. He's not active. Let's say he's not even passive. He's a little bit. He's not active, but he's useful. So it's not terrible. It's not a big pawn. Their dark square bishop is active because he's looking at his diagonal, and is useful in the sense that he's also controlling the dark squares, right? Some key dark squares, but he can also be traded for our dark square bishop, which would of course give us some weak dark squares. So okay, now let's go to the knights. Sorry, this light square bishop. This light square bishop is basically having our same issue, but he's also defending some light squares, so it's not terrible. And our light square bishop is actually kind of almost a big pawn, because if the knight wasn't here, this bishop wouldn't have really that much of a future. So he's a little bit, he's not active because he's not really looking at diagonals, he's only looking at this knight. But he's also not that useful, right? So it's not a great piece. Now let's look at the knights. Our knight on c6 is a good piece because it can go to the d4 square. So it has a future. It has a future. Okay. Now, what else? Their d5 knight. This d5 knight is a superstar. He's on a 5th rank from their point of view. On our point of view, is a 4th rank, but from them, he's on a 5th rank. And he's a great knight. He's looking at these important dark squares. This is just a great knight restricting our queen even. He's almost dominating our queen. That's crazy. So you know that's a piece right there. That's a piece right there. Okay. So this knight is better than all of our knights. This knight here, on the other hand, is not really good at all. At all, really at all. And yeah, it's pretty terrible. You may want to play g4 to activate it, but then like queen h4 may come, which is a good square for the queen at least. It seems active. Knight g3 is impossible, exploiting some weaknesses. So this knight is not good, the knight on e2. Our knight on e8, I mean, even if he goes here, what's the future? So he probably wants to go to f6. So our knight on e8 at least has some prospects. That seems a little bit better than white's prospect, even though after bishop g5 there are some problems. And it's interesting because after knight f6, which improves our worst piece, bishop g5, if we move the queen, we lose this guy because also the knight attacks it. So this knight, which is very strong, you know, can be traded for this bishop. So strategically speaking, bishop takes is not a bad move, because we're giving up what we evaluate to be not a good piece for what we evaluate to be a very good piece for white. And also, this allows to play knight f6, because after bishop g5, we can just move the queen away. And if bishop takes, it's equal. And after f takes, which attacks the bishop and grabs a pawn, we can play f takes, which defends the bishop. And if bishop to h6, no, that's not playable because they already traded bishops, so that's fine. So bishop takes is a move that comes to mind. Now let's talk about the obvious. And that's not obvious. So after minor pieces, what do we do? 5. Well, let's say heavy pieces. So rooks and then queens. So let's compare the rooks. Our a8 rook is not terribly positioned, because we can always play a4, a takes b3, and then all of a sudden we have an open file. Whereas their rook on b1 is quite bad, quite frankly, it's quite bad. It's not terrible, and a1 it may be even worse, because if we play, let's say the white rook is on a1, and we have 2 moves in a row. After a4 and a takes b3, they cannot take back because the rook's hanging. Now, let's ignore the fact that our bishop is also hanging, so of course I'm just talking about that tactical side of the board. So perhaps the rook on b1 is not terrifyingly terrible, but it's not active either. It's quite silly there on b1. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So our rook on a8 is better than the rook on b1, in my opinion. However, the rook on f8 lacks squares, potentials, and stuff like this. So I'm not a big fan. The rook on f2 is, in my opinion, optimally positioned. And the rook b2 to f1 may come, especially if the f file opens up. So that's great. So I prefer when it comes to the rooks, the b1 rook is really silly, but can be improved quite tremendously to create a strong battery. Our rook on a8 cannot really be improved too massively, unless you are telling me that something like rook to a7 is nice, when it can just come in clutch here to f7, that's possible. So okay, perhaps we have rook a7, they have this, it looks crazy, but maybe. But in general, I kind of prefer their heavy pieces a little bit. Their queen is also creating a battery, staring at our pawns. So yeah, heavy pieces, I prefer them. Okay, now after this, I want to get concrete. So 6. Do I look at the checks, captures, attacks? Yeah, Armageddon thinking. Checks, captures, threats. And also threats of mate. So checks, threat of mate, capture, threats. So are there any checks? There's knight e7, there's knight f6, it never works. We don't have checks, threat of mate. I don't see threat of mate from them. Captures. They're threatening to capture our bishop on e6. So that's a threat. They have a threat, right? What threats do we have? Perhaps we want to play 4 at some point. Perhaps we want to play knight e4, right? So these are kind of the dynamics. Now 7. If nothing urgent, which we establish on point 6, If nothing urgent, 7A, select candidate moves based on evaluation. 7B, calculate and move. Actually, calculate, 7B. 8, move. Okay, that's my thing. Okay, so first move that comes to mind is bishop takes d5. It's logical, there is threat, right? So bishop takes is the only move I consider, really. I'm not into fancy stuff here at this moment. There is g takes, which I guess we can play. E takes, but you see, already okay, let's actually say in this position there are two candidate moves, g takes and bishop takes. Technically, you can also play bishop d7, I guess. Yeah, so bishop d7, bishop c8, g takes, bishop takes are the candidate moves. However, here is not about saving this bishop, as we established. It's about making a statement. No, it's about trading off this strong knight for this not so strong bishop. Like if the bishop goes back, they can play g4 once again, right? And I guess on queen h4, nobody obliges them to put a knight there. They can just go here, 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 or here and knight here anyways. Like they can chill. They can chill, really. They can just chill. So yeah, bishop takes, pawn takes is perhaps the two most forcing moves. Pawn takes, I would say pawn takes, and we note, because if the rook takes, then the bishop takes. And here I notice there is very strong attack. This light square bishop all of a sudden comes alive. Not so easy. Not so easy at all. Not so easy at all. And what else? What else? I don't like it. So bishop takes is basically pretty much the only move that is left. Let's try to calculate, shall we? Now, c takes is a possibility, but this weakens the b5 square. So we can go knight here and perhaps even trying to reach b5. And even this knight all of a sudden is looking at some square. Like for example, let's try to calculate really good moves. So bishop takes, c takes, the knight's under attack, and knight d4, knight takes d4. And here it's very tricky. It's very tricky. But perhaps c takes even, and after bishop h6, knight c7, and we're gonna get to c3 via b5. That's some crazy lines, quite frankly. I'm not even sure about those lines. So bishop takes, e takes, knight d4, knight takes, pawn takes. Which one though? Well, again, I guess the d4 pawn. Not really the d4 pawn. No, it can't be the d4, the c4 pawn. It has to be the e5 pawn. But what for? But what for? What for? Another idea is bishop takes, pawn takes. Which one? I don't know. Let's say e takes. Knight e7. Because then g4. I really don't know. Okay, I'm gonna play bishop takes and then we'll think. Okay, that's correct. Oh, that's it. Like it or not, taking on d5 followed by knight d4 had to be tried. Okay. So we made it, guys. We made it. That's correct. Is this it? Yeah. We did it. We solved it correctly. So, let's flip it. Black's in trouble and has to make a painful decision. Should he capture on d5 or retreat his light square bishop? Giving up the bishop isn't something one would normally want to do. It's not only a useful piece, but after bishop takes d5, both e takes d5, threatening to make use of the e4 square. With g4 and knight g3, while also looking forward to an enduring attack against Black's king, and c takes d5, intending to continue with the usual kingside attack via rook b2, f1, g3, g4, g5, etc. favor white. However, like it or not, black must play that way. Why the urgency? Why create a tasty square for white's pieces or leave white with a ready-made kingside attack? Why willingly go into an inferior position? The answer is twofold. First, you are already in an inferior position. So this is very important, guys. Perhaps you're used to puzzles on chess.com where it's like white to play and win or black to play and win, right? Or even white to play and draw or black to play and draw, but it's like a perfect draw. Here is inferior position. So this is a defensive exercise, very difficult. Because you're trying to see, like, for example, after bishop takes and pawn takes, I was trying to find ways to, like, get somewhere. But no, you get nothing. Because after bishop takes, pawn takes, and I'm like knight d4, I wasn't convinced. That's why I'm like bishop takes, pawn takes, even knight e7 I was considering. Because I couldn't see an advantage after knight to d4, right? Bishop takes, pawn takes, knight to d4. And the reason is there's no advantage. But that's the best still. So that's very interesting. So we have a bias to think our position is better, but we should be objective. So anyways, first of all, you're already in an inferior position. The good thing about me in my performance in this exercise, is that I identified that bishop takes d5 has to be played. In fact, I said, okay, bishop takes d5, then we'll think. Right? But that was enough for the exercise. Because yeah, I correctly identified that you have to do that. Now, not equality. In other words, you need to be realistic. Here we go. Second reason, the retreat leads to a far worse situation. Explaining the rating spread. Though I doubt that everyone will notice the potential strength of capturing away from the center with bishop takes d5, e takes d5, though white's kingside attack after c takes d5 is pretty obvious, the real question is whether or not a player will see that f5, f6 is doable after bishop to d7. Since a glance will tell black that his f6 square is adequately covered. Wait, what? So in the very first position, sorry. Here, if bishop d7, you can play f6. What? That's something I don't know, but bishop d7, f6, and on this there is check takes. Oh, bishop g5, nasty, but we're gonna see it in a second. The request of whether or not, okay. This makes the problem more than just a don't let your bishop get entombed walk in the park. I would expect many classy players to see the downside of bishop takes d5, but I would also expect many in that rating group to simply miss the tactics that makes f5, f6 gain. I mean, thankfully I don't see anything, and so this didn't trick me, because you had to see moves to get tricked, and I don't see moves. You know, Arnold, said Arnold, the sad guy smiling meme. Yeah, that's me. It's like, hey, I don't see things, and that helped me here. That's why I'm not a master, because I don't see things. Anyways, so yeah, that's terrible. Okay, but okay, so like it or not, bishop takes d5 followed by knight d4 had to be tried. And again, there are no further moves because you're just worst, so you do whatever you want to do, I guess. But f6 now, and here bishop h8 has to be played. If you take with the knight, knight takes... Oh yeah, what happened if you take with the knight? Oh, bishop g5, I guess. Yeah, knight takes f6, bishop g5, I missed that completely. And if bishop takes f6, takes, bishop g5, GG, why not? So okay, after f6 you have to go back, but at this point it's over. Bishop h6, yeah, it's GG. Again, the rook didn't have that many squares possible. This is something I noticed, I didn't notice this. Winning the exchange while also intending to follow up with a good old-fashioned entombing. Of course, g4 followed by g5, which I noticed, would be the normal recipe since white would in effect be a piece ahead. That alone would be enough to make any sane person chop on d5 via bishop takes d5, don't allow your pieces to be entombed. But why not pick up a rook and stick the bishop in a coughing tool? Remember that in chess, greed is often a good thing. I should mention that bishop g5 with the idea of knight e7 check is also extremely strong. After bishop h6, oh yeah, he's saying bishop g5, so knight e7 takes, the pawn is defended, and it's over. Meder suggests knight d4 is black's best option. His suffering will end and the spectator will enjoy a good laugh. Knight e7, you have to give up your queen. Other moves are just joyless for black. So for example, knight c7, bishop takes f8, king takes, knight takes c7. Here it says queen g5 is also strong. But let's stick to our pieces entombed by pawn's team. Knight c7, queen takes c7, g4, king g8, g5, and black should resign. Here's literally a rook down, since the thing on h8 may think it's a bishop, but we know better. And it's over. Now if we go back, knight takes f6, back from where? After bishop h6, I guess, knight takes f6, bishop g5. On bishop takes f8 also does the job, but now knight takes, queen there, f6, rook b1 is nightmarish. And instead, if bishop takes f6, so in this position, bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, bishop takes, king takes, rook b2 f1, damn. Offers black one of those I better resign before anyone sees me playing this position moments. So that was interesting. And that was test number 1. Whoa, what's going on here? Level 1400, 1600. What factors combine to give black a decisive advantage? I think I know this idea here. As an idea, just as an idea, but I think I know it. So 3-3, so material, right? We have our official list of points. And let me drink some water. Well, we can already notice some factors. Guys, I'm gonna straight up read from this, and then in the future I'm gonna try to do it by memorizing it, but not memorizing it, but like making it come second nature. So material, we are up a pawn. Pawn structure, symmetrical, non-symmetrical, also majorities, minorities. I'm gonna add this. Okay. We are black, and despite that, we have a majority. That's crazy. Usually we are minority. Anyways, racial jokes aside, so yeah, there is a majority. There is a 3 against 2 on the queen side, so that's good. Weaknesses. we don't really have weaknesses, because b7 we can always push b6, and a7 we can always push a5, and then it becomes b6 the weakness technically, but still it's flexible, so we don't really have weaknesses at the moment. Weaknesses, they don't have weaknesses either. b2, okay, they can always play b3. It's fine. But, okay, space. We have an advantage in space on the... I'm doing these noises because my feet is in pain. Because I have a nail that is behaving bad, let's say, to not be too graphic for you guys, but it's painful, very painful. Anyways, so what else? Sorry, I got distracted by feet pain. It usually doesn't hurt if I'm not moving it. That's very problematic, because tomorrow I have to work 8 hours standing on my feet. That's a little bit of a problem if your feet hurts. Okay, so space, pawn breaks. Sorry, I really got distracted, but what I gotta do? Pawn breaks, do we have pawn breaks? I mean, we're gonna try to eventually push the B and C pawn to create a pass pawn on the C file. Mobilize our queenside majority in general. Open files. Yeah, there are 2 open files and 1 semi-open file. There is the open file E file, there is the open file D file, and there is the semi-open file C file. We control firmly the E file, however, it seems like they are winning control over the D file unless we do something. Interesting. So, okay, so there's that. They're pressuring our c5 pawn with their queen. It would be nice to defend it, while also blocking the D file and their attack on our queen. Wouldn't it be crazy if there is a move that accomplishes both at the same time? Wouldn't it be crazy and convenient? Minor pieces, major imbalances, bishop pair, knight versus bishop, opposite color bishop. We have a major imbalance, which is the opposite color bishops. They have a light square bishop, we have a dark square bishop. Now, in endgames that tends to be equal, but in middle games it tends to be an asset, because what we attack cannot be defended by them. Okay? Now let's compare the pieces. When it comes to the relative strength of the pieces, their bishop is decent because it's putting pressure on the long diagonal. However, the other diagonal is not special, meaning this diagonal here is good, but this diagonal here is not good. The good thing about this bishop is that it's preventing rook e2. Very important to prevent that, otherwise game over. If this bishop was here, this would be game over. Again, ignore this, thank you, but you know. Our bishop is good on this diagonal, but on this diagonal is bad. Wouldn't it be convenient if we could put the bishop on a square that supports this pawn, closes down this file, and improves the second diagonal of the bishop? So we keep it on this diagonal, but we have a better one with perhaps pressure on the king. Wouldn't it be convenient if move accomplished all of these things? That would be crazy. Okay, that's pretty much it. So our bishop can be improved. Heavy pieces. Our rooks are fantastic, better than their rooks as together. Their queen is good, is decent. Our queen is not that great, quite frankly. So we can improve it. Okay. Armageddon thinking, chess, threats, captures. So checks, there is queen takes h2, but that's crazy. Our queen is hanging. That's the thing. Our queen is hanging. So, yeah. Now, If nothing urgent, select candidate moves based on evaluation. Well, okay, there is something urgent, which is our queen is under attack. How do we defend the queen? Do we take the rook? No, that loses in my humble opinion. However, it's funny because after queen takes d1, if they play rook takes d1, rook e1 is mate. So after queen takes d1, they have to take probably queen takes d1 or bishop takes d1 even, and that's probably good enough for them to win the game. Now queen takes d1, so is excluded. So do we move the queen? Perhaps queen b6, right? Which is not a crazy move. I mean, we're also attacking b2, but after b3, I don't know. Also, after queen b6, I don't even know if we are threatening the pawn. Because if bishop takes b2, there is rook b1, and it's not clear how we save everything. And if queen b6, queen takes b2, there is queen takes c5. And or even worst, actually even worst. Well, I don't know if worst, but like queen b6, queen takes b2, there is queen takes b2, bishop takes b2, rook b1, for example, bishop takes b7 directly, right? So I don't even know if we're threatening a pawn. And even queen b6, queen takes, queen b6, queen takes, queen c5, queen a2, bishop b7. I don't know how I would evaluate that, but I don't know if it's enough. Maybe it's enough though, but again, there are rook b1 ideas taking on b7 and it's tough to win. So the other way to protect the rook is, the queen is of course to interpose, right? Of course, you guys should have understood by now, bishop d4. And this construction I saw in Grandmaster Raven's course perhaps. This is solidifying, cementing the bishop, right? A random pawn somewhere with a bishop going there. That's a very typical pattern, right? So bishop, as soon as I saw this position, the first move that came to my mind instantly was bishop d4. I then, of course, did it educational for myself too, but, you know, bishop d4 like that, of course. And after bishop d4 is tough for them, because after bishop d4 we also have some ideas. First of all the problems we have are solved. Because they're not longer attacking this, they're no longer attacking this, we control this, right? We can go queen to f4 with the idea bishop to e5. How do you deal with that? Let's say we have three moves. 1, 2, 3. How do you defend this? g3, you hang the bishop, right? So after this, what are they going to do? I think they're losing actually, but I don't know. Okay, I'm going to play bishop d4, let's see what happens. Okay, that's correct. Now they play a4. Interesting move. Interesting move, this a4 thing. Not sure if I understand it, but okay. Now, of course, there are a couple of possibilities. Obviously, we can go, for example, we can go queen f6 or queen e5. But I don't see how that's so strong. Because are we really threatening this? I don't know. Also, I don't know. So what I will do is, again, go queen to f4, threatening bishop to e5. Now, after queen to f4, they're probably gonna play queen d2, I guess, so to trade queens. But then things get a little bit complicated. Queen takes, rook takes. We have to look at the obvious moves, I guess. And I don't know. Yeah, that's not super easy. Queen f4 is a dream, but queen d2 kind of kills it. Or does it? We can perhaps go rook to e3 at that point, or something crazy like that. If they take our rook, we win their queen. Yeah, that's crazy, but it may just as well work. Oh, that's so crazy. Oh, that's so crazy. Nah, that's so crazy. That's actually so crazy. Wow. But perhaps we have better, like queen takes, rook e1. The problem is bishop takes b7. Rook takes, king takes. I don't know. But okay. Is there a big negative aspect behind this? I'm gonna go for it. And it's incorrect. Okay, just b6. Just b6. Black is in no hurry since white can't do anything. Okay, so I just got too horny. He has no targets to attack in black's position and no means to effect any useful penetration. You guys cannot read correctly, but I'm reading correctly for you. But wait and hope that his opponent doesn't find a way to break through. When your opponent is helpless, it's always a good idea to tighten up your position. Okay, so this is also a very important key concept. B6 takes the pawn away from the white bishop's stair and also give extra support to c5. So I'm going to write down these concepts. I don't know why, but I feel like writing them down. So, create outpost for bishop. Example. C5 pawn plus d4 bishop. Then, if opponent can't move, solidify before doing. Okay? b6 takes the pawn away from the white bishop's stair and also gives extra support to c5. Okay, very logical. Let's go. And that was it. That was it. Okay. Let's go here. Bishop d4, a4, b6, and we already read it. So this comes from this game, which is Yuri Averbach against Mikhail Tal. Two random names, never heard of them. Okay, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, c5, d5, e takes, c takes, d6. Is this like a Benoni or something? e4, g6, bishop e2, bishop g7, knight f3, castle, castle, rook e8, queen c2, knight a6, bishop f4, knight b4, queen b1, knight takes e4. What? Most likely unsound, but quite typical of Tal during that period. Oh, okay, just Tal went for it, okay. Knight takes e4, bishop to e4, knight f to d2, knight takes d5, okay. And now bishop takes d6. Bishop g3, queen e7, bishop f3, rook a to d1, rook e1, that would have been a game, but bishop takes d6 is a mistake, because knight f6. And if you take the knight with check, queen takes f6, and the bishop zanging, both of them, because also the light squared bishop zanging, and the queen zanging. So bishop f3, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, so material has been equalized again. If bishop takes b7, I guess rook a to b8, and after the bishop goes to f3, you take on b2, with the bishop actually, and then the rook falls, so queen c2, rook e7, defends the pawn, ready to doubles up, bishop back to f3, rook a to d8, and now bishop to d1. What factors combine to give black a decisive advantage? Black's a solid pawn up, we saw that. However, we already know that a one-pawn advantage doesn't guarantee victory when bishops of opposite colors are on the board. And again, we identify bishop of opposite colors. And this is not a granted thing, guys. Again, we have identified it. But we have identified, of course, everyone can see that there are opposite color bishops, but we have been a little bit more nuanced than usual. We said, we're up a pawn, we're in a middle game, we can create some chances of attack and stuff, so it's not so simple. But at the same time, if we start to simplify too many heavy pieces, right? Does black will want to retain as many pieces as possible and show that his bishop is a stronger attacker that can go after things the other bishop can't defend? Exactly. To this end, control of d4 is critical, since from there the bishop will IF2 while also blocking off the d file. Note that the extra pawn allows black bishop to safely reside on d4, while white's bishop doesn't have the same luxury. Ultimately, the extra pawn, superior bishop, and iron control of the e-file should combine to give black a winning game. Exactly. Explaining the rating spread. The material advantage of black's control of the e-file is obvious, so that leaves black's grip on d4 as major thing to notice. This is fully in a 1400s range. So bishop d4. Now a4, b6. Black's no hurry, we already read that. b3, rook to e5. What is he doing with that rook? Rook d2, h5. This little pawn move is designed to create new weaknesses in white's king side. A rook e2, white is trying to trade everything he can in a ford to reach a pure bishop of opposite colors endgame. Even though he's a pawn down, he would have real chances to hold such a situation. Rook takes, bishop takes, h4. King h1. White isn't in any hurry to stop black's pawn with h3, since that will leave a severe weakness along the h to b8 diagonal. Yeah. Black will try to make decisive use of this with queen f4 and, if allowed, bishop e5, which was what we saw previously. So queen f4 anyways. g3. A weakness is being provoked, and white's king will soon find itself facing more than a bit of heat. Queen f6 back, queen to d1, rook to d8. Can white handle the heat? Bishop g4. White cracks under the pressure. A better defense was queen d3. Queen d3, hoping to cover the h1, a8 diagonal, and also offering an exchange of queens with king f3, though white will still face long miserable game. On the other hand, the natural looking king to g2 is simply bad. Bishop c3, which attacks the queen. Bishop d3 defends, but now check. f3, h3 check, that's crazy. On king takes h3, queen d7 picks up the bishop, that's beautiful. So that you guys can see, this is just over. So king h1, but now queen d6 attacks the bishop, bishop defends. Queen e7 attacks the queen, queen defends. Wow, it's over. But bishop g4 fails because you can just take here. Queen e2, now it's easy. He had to try queen f3, queen takes f3, bishop takes f3. When white is 2 pawns down, but he can still make use of the opposite color bishop to put up a fight. So queen e2, rook d2, that's crazy. That's crazy. What's this move? That's crazy. This is a move I completely missed. White probably missed this. Yeah, I missed that too. Now, if you take the rook, that's the key. Queen c6, you are mated. So queen e8, king g7, g takes, queen d4, attacks the bishop, bishop h3, queen d3, attacks the bishop, bishop g2, rook d1. And resigned. If queen b5 takes, check, takes, black will be 2 pawns up while also retaining serious play against the vulnerable enemy king, because there are the queens on the board as well. So this was very nice. This was Mikhail Tal, ladies and gentlemen, always with the bombs. How many tests? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Damn, 5 tests. I'm trying to go a little bit fast, but I have to solve these puzzles like I would. Okay, this looks complicated. So the right move doesn't come to me immediately. First move that comes to my mind is instinctually this, but makes no sense. Maybe it does. Oh, and it's all about the bishops. Oh, maybe it does make sense. So anyways, okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2 bishops, knight. Okay, materials equal. What is the... Here it is. Pawn structure, symmetrical. Well, it's not symmetrical. It's not symmetrical. The D and E pawn are reverted. So there is pawn majority on the queen side for black, pawn majority on the king side for us, perhaps. Weaknesses. They have a weakness on c6. They have a weakness on a6. We have a weakness on a2, perhaps. Space. We have an advantage in space on the queen side. Very nice. Thanks to the c5 pawn, which controls the b6 and d6 squares. So, yeah, weak squares and stuff like this. I will say open files and weak squares are also a product of pawn structure. So I will say weak squares b6, d6, open files. There is the semi-open file on the E file and the semi-open file D file on the D file. Of course there is. Clearly there is. Now other weaknesses are f6 and g6, but they have the dark square bishop, so it's not a big deal. But, you know, it could become an issue. This is important for later. Now, minor pieces, major imbalances that are known. Let's compare the pieces. The b7 bishop is the worst bishop I've ever seen in my life, ever. And I just noticed it now. It's not active, it's passive, it's a big pawn. The only way to reroute it is through bishop c8. So you should move your queen, play bishop c8, and that's it. Their knight, though, is not terrible, can go to e4, but not really now, so I don't know how good it is. Our knight on c3, though, is not particularly enticing, so I'm not too big of a fan of that. I'm not too big of a fan of that. Dark square bishops, the dark square bishop. The dark square bishop is active, but it's also looking at a diagonal that does nothing. Our dark square bishop is active, but again, it feels like it can be improved. It's also working in discoordinating the pieces a little bit. Heavy pieces, the rooks, the queens. Their a8 rook is pretty bad, their queen is pretty bad. Our queen feels like it's better than their queen. And their rook on e5 is much better than our rook on d1. It feels like it at least, but they have to be careful about winning tempi moves. Armageddon thinking, checks there are none, threat of mates there are none, capture threats. Well, we have a threat which is bishop f4 that attacks the rook. Now, is this coherent with the other consideration of the position? Yes, because we want to play bishop f4, bishop to d6. After bishop f4, it's funny because if you look at the rook, they cannot really go to e6 because we would have bishop to h3. If they go rook e7, we have bishop d6, which wins another tempo. And if they leave the e5, we can go e4. Like, let's say bishop to f4, rook e7, bishop d6, rook d7. Oh, but rook d7, there's still bishop to h3, so never mind. But in general, I think we had h4 at this point, but I'm not sure. So, after bishop f5, what can they do? They probably really have to go to either h5, but that feels like it's gonna trap the rook rather than... Yeah, it feels that way a lot. Yeah. Really feels like that a lot. And bishop e5 instead. There is rook back to d8. And then there is bishop to d6. And if bishop f8, which challenges that bishop, I think we are happy to take. The dark squares are weak, like let's say queen e2, right? And they gave up their dark square bishop for our dark square bishop, which I think is a fair trade, leaving them with a terrible bishop on b7. Now I'm gonna play bishop f4, and let's see what happens. It could be wrong. And as you can see, it's not the best move. It's given as an alternative though. So I wonder, is there anything better? Well, I also noticed this. So bishop e3 is also a move I noticed, with the idea bishop d4, which would also be a blockade of this pawn, which is not a passed pawn, but still a blockade. And our bishop will be perfectly positioned on the long diagonal, challenging this other guy. I'm gonna try bishop to e3, let's see. Oh, that's incorrect. Okay, so I was completely out. e4 immediately? Okay, that was also possible, but wow. I wasn't expecting e4 immediately. Okay, so e4 takes. And now maybe bishop here? I don't know. Knight takes, bishop takes. Feels good, but I really like this move, which simply opens up this rook. I don't know why. It feels so natural, but it's wrong. That's bad. I mean, it felt so natural to me. It's crazy that it's wrong. It's truly crazy. Okay, the queen attacks the bishop, which is under attack, of course. So okay, if perhaps bishop f3 is best here, because I don't want to allow infiltration. So I'm gonna play this. Okay, now queen here, of course, which attacks my bishop. I can defend it like that, but then they played this. I can play bishop here, then they go here. Oh, but then I go here. Ooh. Okay. Now again, I can try to install a bishop here, but I can also try to do this. But if this, then there is this, perhaps. I really don't know what to do at this point. If I go bishop here, they cannot really capture here because I take here, but then this can become annoying. So king g2 perhaps even is a move. Rook to d3 even is a move. I'm gonna play rook d3. Of course it's incorrect. Rook d6? Oh yeah, it's one of the moves I consider. Oh, also attacking c6, I'm blind. Never mind. Okay, I'm tired. Perfect. Not seeing that it attacks c6, which is one of the weaknesses, just means I'm tired at this point, which is nice. So e4. So d takes. Worst is d4, knight e2, when the d pawn will fall. How though? Oh, because of bishop f4. These are the type of things that I don't understand. Like, for example, here, I'm like, I can't play e4 because they can also play d4. You know, it's funny because, like, this little thing here is the reason why I excluded the e4. So this is not, like, obvious at all to me. Like, if you play e4, d4, knight e2, what about, like, queen anywhere? It's crazy to me. But there is bishop f4, I guess, and you win it. Okay. No, I mean, of course, I just didn't say it. So, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes. Now we can see that e2, e4 had another point too. It opened the d5 for white's d1 rook and made the hole on d6 accessible to white's pieces. After bishop takes e4, which is this move here, white's advantage can't be in doubt. Aside from the disparity in the state of both sides' light-square bishops, the weaknesses of the c6 pawn, which will be vulnerable for the rest of the game, means that white has a target and black doesn't. Queen e6, bishop back, queen f6, bishop here, and now rook d6. Black's position has noticeably deteriorated. How did this happen? It's clear that white didn't do anything brilliant. In fact, all he did was to activate his bishop, take aim at a weak pawn, and make use of a hole on an open file. These are things anyone can do. Yet white's play is bringing a strong grandmaster like Malakov to his knees. Yeah, no, it's true, anyone can do it, but you have to be logical and know your stuff. So, d4, d5, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, a6, c5. So this is the way that the position was reached. They wanted to repeat, but they didn't repeat. Okay. Black is spatially challenged on the queen side. But the most notable drawback to his game is the light square bishop, which on b7 is a true tall pawn, okay? White's bishop on d2 can leap into activity via bishop f4, but white's other bishop seems to be hitting granite on d5. Thus, white's first order of business is to crack open the center and activate the slacker on g2. Ah, so that's the idea, to identify that our light square bishop is also shit, and try to activate it. Remember, more often than not, you have to make a bishop active. You can't count on it to happen by itself. Okay, so this is very important. So, I'm gonna write it down. You have to make a bishop active. It doesn't happen by itself. Okay, nice. Remember, more often than not, you have to make a bishop active. You can't count on it to happen by itself. Explaining the rating spread. I failed this, by the way. What was the rating? Because I failed this. And I'm rated 1972. Yeah, this is supposed to be solved easily by 1400, 1600s. Like, no shot. Like, because how can you decide between e4, bishop f4? Bishop f4 is so much easier. But okay. Of course it's skill issue, but what I'm saying is 14, 1600, really? Bro. Okay, skill issue. Explaining the rating spread. I know that bishop f4 was tempting, but my main concern is that you notice that your g2 bishop isn't as active as it could be. Exactly, I failed to see this. If that simple thought crossed your mind, then I'm happy. It didn't. I think I said that my bishop is not amazing or something, but nothing more. And if you also decided to do something about the g2 bishops, polite, and decided on e2, e4, well, no, I saw e2, e4, but just not now, I guess. Then prepare to be worshipped as a chess god. Yeah, I'm not ready. So e4, d takes e4. Yeah, again, this line here. And I noticed that this line here, I didn't even mention it because in my mind, this is my biggest mistake in chess. Like, in my mind, I saw this, right? d4, I saw d4, I'm like, yeah, that's not good. But it's like, why don't you calculate one move further? Like, after knight e2, the pawn is hanging. The problem is it's difficult because knight e2, the knight may move, I take, they move the rook, my knight's hanging, but let's just move it back, I guess. Yeah, but this is difficult for me. This is difficult, like to see e4, I see d4 and I just block myself. But that's why overcoming the trap of I can't and I must, right? Art of insistence, right? All these things. So there's a reason why those chapters are there, I guess, no? So can't wait to do those chapters, especially overcoming the thing of I can't and all these things. Because here, again, in this position here, I'm like, I was thinking, and I didn't, it was such a almost unconscious thing, I didn't even say it out loud. I'm like, yeah, e4, d4, I can do that. And so I don't even know if I mentioned e4 immediately. I definitely didn't try it, so I definitely didn't mention it. Well, no, but I didn't mention it anyways. So e4, d takes e4, but on d takes e4, of course I'm happy, right? But d4 is just 92, that's crazy. Okay, so d takes e4, but that's, in my opinion, that's not 1400, 1600. I just suck at chess. Sorry guys, I'm just making excuses up. I just suck at the game. But why I'm rated how much I'm rated then? It's weird. So d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. Now we can see that e2, e4 at another point too. It opened the d file for white's d1 rook. Oh, okay. Wow. Such a great position, by the way. These puzzles here are really genius. Like, Silman is really giving fantastic puzzles. It opened the d file for white's d1 rook and made the hole on d6 accessible to white's pieces. After bishop takes e4, white's advantage can't be in doubt. Okay, we already read that, I guess. Queen e6, and you have to identify that c6 is a weakness also. So queen e6, bishop f3. And now there is this, and here rook d6, obviously, like attacking the two weaknesses, which are the queen exposed and the c6. And again, after queen c3, I'm like, yeah, that's not good. But calculate, queen c3, queen takes c3, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c6, and you win the game, because then you have c pawn, which is passed. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Black's position has notably deteriorated. The grandmaster is on his knees, okay. That's a little bit weird. Rook takes e6, queen takes e6. It was so wild. Queen d2, more simple chess. White claims the d file. Okay, but this is still very, very instructive game. So this we gave it for granted, but let's see. Takes. Now queen to d2. Queen f5. Rook to e8 was perhaps a tad better, though after rook to d1, queen c8. However, notice that queen d7. So there is one criticism that I have to give to Chessable, which is the indentation of the variations. It's just so wild. It's just so wild. Lichess is much better with literally the line showing you. This is so weird. But after rook d1, queen c8, king g2, black will be doomed to a long passive miserable defense, not queen d7. Because of rook e1 and his GG, why not? If queen h3, queen d6, there is rook c8. Yeah, I still don't understand these indentations. Like okay, I can spend 5 minutes to understand these two lines, but the fuck, let's keep going. So queen f5 attacks the rook moves. Grid is good. White grabs both center files. Silman also wild, man. Now every white piece is doing a better job than its black counterpart. Bishop f8, king g2, a5, a3, a takes b4, h5, h4, queen c8, bishop e5, queen d8, queen f4, total domination. The rest of the game illustrates just how horrible black's light squared bishop really is. I don't understand why they don't try the very simple bishop c8, bishop e6. This is beyond me. Oh, because c6 will fall. Okay, now I understand. Why not rook a6 then? Because then rook d1? Where though? Not d6. But I guess then you can try bishop d6, trade the bishops, and then put a rook to d6. Okay. I explained it to myself. Bishop g7, rook d1, here we go. Queen here, finally taking. Going there. Now rook d8, check, takes. Rook d7, why not taking on c6? because then it's a draw endgame, maybe. Bishop d1. What? Bishop b3. Now this falls. This is under attack. And now this will fall. That will fall. Okay, you have 3 passed pawns here. Check. You go here. If you take on c5, rook g5 wins the rook. Now that hangs. If you take, I don't know, h5, black's last square bishop remained pathetic right up to his resignation. Okay, that was very nice. Very, very nice. I'm getting mad because I'm tired, guys. Don't notice that. Don't notice that. I'm tired. You need to understand I'm really, 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 really tired. So I get mad. When I'm tired, I get mad. It's just how it is. Okay, so quiz white to play. What? What the hell? Oh my god. Okay. What's going on? So. So 3-3, okay. So there are some imbalances here. Pawn structure, symmetrical, not symmetrical. It's not symmetrical, they have a weakness on e4. We can target it perhaps. So what else? Space, they have an advantage space on the queen side. Pawn breaks, they have e3. If it was them to move, e3 would win. Well, maybe not because we have f3, but it's complicated. Open files, weak squares. There is the open d file, nobody controls it. There is the semi-open files on the e file. We have good attack over it. Weak squares. Sorry, I have to dislocate my feet without smashing it or touch the nail. Okay, sorry for my weird maneuvers, but I have to do it. So, okay, let me get this closer. Okay, so I can relax it perhaps. Okay, so my feet is like it's cold, but if I cover it, it's in pain. So great, I can cover a part of it, I guess. Better than nothing. And then I get sick. That's insane. Okay, so so in this position they are threatening e3. Minor pieces, let's compare them. Our knight is terrible. They have the bishop pair, our knight is terrible. Dark square bishops are quite the same. Their light square bishops are amazing, creating the battery with the queen. So we have to improve our knight on b1. Now, sorry, I can't help but look for moves, and this is my old bad habits. It's like I shouldn't look for moves. I should first evaluate the position and notice the imbalances, and then look for whatever type of moves. So heavy pieces. There is an imbalance, rooks versus queen, which is something I'm not used to, so I'm a little bit confused. So when it comes to material, it's actually tricky. What's the material count? It's actually equal. The material is equal. Okay, the material is equal. Okay, no need to... There's no need to... No need to panic. No need to panic, guys. There is no need to panic, guys. There is no need to panic. So no need to panic. Their queen is better than our rooks simply because one of our rooks is dead. However, However, I will say that once the rooks are connected and activated, they can be better than the queen. So Armageddon thinking, checks, capture, threats. There is the threat of mate with e3. Threat of mates above captures. Yeah, let's go. The threat of mate wins again when it comes to the hierarchy of what you should look for. Of course it does. If nothing urgent, select candidate moves based on evaluation. Okay, calculate. So the candidate moves are moving the knight out, like knight c3, which sounds insane, but is actually a decent candidate move. Then bishop e3 and rook e3. Knight d2 even. Knight d2 is probably crazy, but okay, knight c3 is a move. Why not? f3 is a candidate move. Because after e takes f3, rook takes e7, oh, but there is f2 check and you're in trouble. Yeah, because king takes f2, queen takes g2. Okay, so f3 is losing because e takes f3, rook takes, and then f2 check. Pretty terrible, I think. I don't know, maybe it's not that bad. But I think it is that bad. But maybe it's not that bad. It probably is that bad, though. Is it? I don't know. Is it? Yeah, it probably is. But knight c3. The problem is they can play things like queen f6. And then threatening b4 and stuff. Because on knight c3 and e3, I can always play f3, and this bishop on e3, if anything, sorry, the pawn on e3, if anything, is doomed. If they play c4, on rook takes bishop c5, I have bishop takes e3, and I don't care. So there's that. Knight d2, though, is a little bit tricky, because after e3, we don't have f3 because they take the knight. But then we take their bishop. Bro, what is going on? Stop. Bro, that's actually decent. Oh, knight d2 is actually decent. Yeah, but queen f6 again. Decent what? Decent what? What? Attacking b2, but knight c3, queen f6, g3. No, that's insane. No. But okay, rook e3 I don't like, because they can play g5, but then bishop g3. But the blockade, the blockader, no, there is c5 also. No, having the rook as a blockader is the worst idea ever. No. We have to play bishop e3, but bishop e3 is so passive. I hate it. I hate it so bad. Bishop e3. But maybe then we want to go knight d2, knight f1, knight g3, rook d1, rook e2, rook to d2, or rook to e1. I'm talking about both rooks, depending where we want to double up. It may not be that bad. Knight f1, and then move the bishop. If e3, knight takes e3, which protects g2 and wins the pawn. I'm gonna go with bishop e3. I have a bad feeling about it, but it stops their threat. Our bishop looks very safe, and overall it doesn't look like a terrible position. We are behind in development, but life is not perfect, I guess. Let's try bishop e3, come on. We have to keep moving. It's correct, and queen f6 indeed, attacking this guy. Now, here we can play knight c3. But after b4, knight a4, bishop c6, I'm not convinced we are looking at the best shot here we have. Although knight takes, but then queen takes, everything collapses. It's not good. I want to play c3 here, b4, a3. On takes, we are fine. If a5... Oh, if a5 I can just take, and they cannot take with the a pawn. So they have to take with this pawn. But then I can just take, I guess. But they take here. But I go here, they take here. That's crazy. I would really like to play c3. Knight c3. Knight c3, sorry. Knight c3. b4, I can even go knight here. No, that's insane. c3, pawn here, here, here. Takes. Oh, perhaps rook a2, bishop here. No, sorry. After c3, b4, here, takes. Oh, if takes, we just take here. Oh, of course, so c3. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. And now I guess knight to d2 is the most sensible. But then b4 actually makes sense. Oh, why it's so complicated? But does make sense? I guess we can play rook c1 though here. Bro, that's insane. What the I think so, yeah, let's go. Because knight d2 I also need to play after something like queen here or queen here, knight here, and we're fine. Here we go. Now this is hanging. I don't like to do this, it's create too many weaknesses. I would really like to go here, which is also coherent with what I said to go here and stuff like this. So let's just do it. Oh, alternative. Oh, is f4? No, takes the bishop from Australia and it's over. And then h2 falls, so g3. Or h3, check, takes, no, so g3. Okay. Now, is this a thing? Guys, I don't know. Bishop here, queen here. Takes, knight, takes, queen here. I don't know, man. I don't know, because my idea is this. I go here. They go here. I take. First of all, they can take here. Yeah, no, that's bad. So what do I do? So perhaps just rook a to d1. But then g5. What do I do? Here? Oh, there is this. But then they have e3 and I can resign. Here. No, here I actually go here. Remember that idea? No, but they play e3. Now there is mate on h1 as well. No. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't. Oh, h4 maybe? H4, g5, takes. King here? Is this a thing? Maybe, because check here, maybe. Bro, I don't want to make a mistake now. I've worked so well. There is also knight here. g5. G5 does so bad. No, G5 I'm dead. I have to play H4, I have to prevent G5. And of course he's wrong. Of course A4, which I thought about for some reason, but A4 I'm just like, it does nothing. Because B4. Oh, but B4... why don't I think? Opening the A file allows the A1 rook to become active. Black would be in serious trouble if both rooks manage to penetrate into the enemy camp. The battle lines are now clearly drawn. What will invade the hostile position first? White rooks or black light square bishop and queen? The last movement, that's so sad, but okay. Let's see it. Bishop e3. This blocks the e-pawn, which in turn makes sure that the h1a8 diagonal won't become a factor in the subsequent play. Queen e5, an important maneuver for black. By forcing g to g3, knight f1 is possible, but then the knight will be relegated to passive defense. Black hopes to use his queen and a8 bishop to take advantage of the subsequent light square holes. The battle is very interesting. White is doing his best to block his opponent's light square bishop, while black is doing everything in his power to create new diagonals for it, what will ultimately allow game-saving counterplay against the white king. g3, h6, a4. Opening the a file allows the a1 rook. Okay. Why did I click on this? I didn't want to click on this. Get out of here. Okay. So this is Ivanchuk against Leko. Let's look at it. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, e6, bishop e4. Da, 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 da. What? So they take a pawn. Oh. Okay, so weird way to change material. I'm sure this is some theory, perhaps. I don't know. No, I don't know. Sacrificing a pawn, now threatening things. What? No, that has to be theory. That has to be theory. Oh, that's theory. Oh, that's theory. But I don't know. So, white has two rooks for a queen, but he's behind in development. Black's bishop seems quite active. And e4, e3, opening up the terrifying h1a diagonal, is in the air. Since white's rooks should theoretically be able to dominate the queen if he solidifies his position and kills off black's activity, Ivanchuk's moves makes a lot of sense. Explaining the rating spread. I think most 1400s will notice the potential danger along the h1a8 diagonal. And since this section is all about bishops, it stands to reason that the answer has something to do with them. Thus, bishop e3, preventing the diagonal from being opened by e4, e3, is something well within a 1400s range. Okay? Well, this one I found. Bishop e3, this blocks the e-pawn, which in turn makes sure that the... Okay. So we read this comment as well, h6, h4. And, okay, we read up until here, so let's keep going. The rest of this very complicated game, given with minimal notes, we'll see both players battling to make their respective goals come true. Okay, so bishop c6. b4 would be a blunder, since it allows white to get rid of one of enemy bishop and open new files for his rooks. Knight c4, takes, rook to d1, sorry, rook e to d1, that's the crazy part. And now c takes, a takes, and rook to c1, and all of white's dreams have been realized. Interesting. So bishop c6 instead, a takes, knight b3, which pressures but doesn't attack c5. Bishop f8, rook e to d1, bishop to c5, and here, can't you take on c5? I guess there is bishop takes. No, but there isn't. Because after knight takes c5, I thought about bishop takes, bishop b3, but there is bishop to d4. Oh. I don't know, but maybe there's something. I have no idea. I really have no idea. I really have no idea. Wait, what? Okay, no, h4 I'm not crazy. h4 king g8 I'm not crazy. What the f... After bishop takes, yeah, rook d8, which attacks the other bishop, king here, rook a to a1, queen f5. Black's tied up, but bishop takes, it's not clear if white has any way to make decisive use of the pinned f8 bishop. Black can easily generate counterplay on the king's side light square holes. If bishop f4 with the idea bishop d6, bishop c4, and now you're getting mated. If rook a to c8, with the idea bishop takes c5 again, bishop e6, Queen takes f8, this is only a draw. But okay, so black would have gone for it technically, right, by playing bishop takes, but he decided to play king g8. He wasn't sure about Ivanchuk having anything here, I guess. So knight c1, the knight is heading to f4. This is some sort of knight maneuver then. If black can't achieve counterplay against white's weakened kingside light squares, he's doomed. So g5, h takes, rook a5, attacking the pawn. Queen attacks rook, and now rook a6. If rook takes b5, bishop c4, when white has nothing better than rook b3, giving up the exchange. So rook to a6, queen f7, rook b6, which attacks the pawn again, bishop e7, rook takes b5, finally bishop to e6. Black's primed and ready to go on the offensive via bishop h3, followed by queen f3, or bishop to e6, g4, f3, okay? Things now get very tense. Check, rook b7, king to h6, rook to e1. It doesn't seem right to take this rook off the d-file and out of the attack. Instead, knight e2 appears stronger. The idea is that queen f3 fails to rook takes c7, bishop h3, because if you take the knight you lose it. Rook d6 check, king here, knight check. That's insane. That's insane. On g takes h, f4, rook e5. Sorry. G takes f4, rook e5. Oh, rook e5. Okay. Yeah, I'm tired and blind. I see nothing. I see absolutely nothing. I'm just going to go. Rook g7 and black is dead. Since this is a book of concept and not endless analysis, I'll leave it to the interested reader to figure out the ultimate worth of knight e2. Of knight e2? What the fuck is knight e2? Oh, okay. So rook e1 instead was played, queen here, a blunder, correct was bishop h3. Finally leaping at these light square chances. f4, sorry, bishop h3, f4, that's crazy move. And not taking en passant, yeah, I'm seeing nothing, sorry. Rook here, queen here, and black is okay, but queen f6. And now you pin the light square bishop, queen f5 unpins. Now you attack c5. Yeah, perhaps you're actually attacking it because in the end e6 will fall. So king h5, knight d2. Never mind. Bishop back, rook a1. Bishop d8, rook b8. 1-0. Okay, I'm understanding nothing. Let's just keep going. I don't understand what's going on. Let's go. 1, 2, 3 tests to go. I just did 2, bro. My brain is getting cooked here. And it's so late. Nah, I can't do this. I can't finish, sorry. I can't finish. That's very unfortunately. I hope I could finish for today. That's very disappointing, but I'll have to finish tomorrow or a different day. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. This was episode 7 of How to Reassess Your Chess. Again, these are not perfect videos. They're not even perhaps decent, but I have to go, guys. I have to go. In the end of the day, I make these videos for myself, and I have a full-time job. I have to put in some time and effort into this, even if it's very dirty in a way. But I have to do it. So take it as you get it. I can't say anything else. So thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your chess.